appreciate all of you coming today for our Elite Runners panel. We have Jared Ward. We got JP, new this year. First time, Jared. How many years is this for you? 6?
I don't know. Yeah, 6 maybe.
It's been a bit.
Right?
Stephanie, another first timer, and then Amy, also a first timer. So a lot of experience up here, a lot of stories, and we'll just open it up to all of you as to what do you want to learn from them, and they all just chip away at it from there. So thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it. And here is our group. So we have some interns, we have coaches, we have athletes, more coaches in the back. So a little bit of everything. Thank you guys.
Yeah. Wow. Who's going to kick us off today with just a burning question that'll get us all going? This is a good panel. Actually, this is a really great panel, and you guys are going to love this panel.
I'll start it off. How do you guys take I want to hear about your guys' easy days, like pace and feel, heart rate.
So we went on a run this morning, and I heard that you don't love easy days.
I do like them, but maybe not taking them as easy as I should.
You like easy days to be fast. No, just method. Yeah, good question. Easy days. Are you camp easy days easy or easy days hard?
I would say each day has to have a purpose. And so when there's an easier recovery day, like there's a reason that is, and it's to prepare you for the hard days. So I think a lot of runners kind of fall into this trap where they run the moderate, I'm not quite recovering, but I'm not running hard too many days in the week. And then you come up to your workouts and you're like, I don't feel fresh, or I don't feel like I can give 100%, but it's so easy, right? Because no one's telling you on that day, like, hey, go a little easier or pull back. Heart rate, that can be tricky too, because if you're kind of married to your metrics, you let go of that like internal data. I think that's so important as a runner. Yeah, so I just think wherever you're at in your year, think of it as like periodization. If you're in the summer and you're just putting in big miles, it's okay to run kind of that like moderate to hard running all the time. But once you start getting into like a big training block where you do have hard sessions, I think just tell yourself, I'm preparing for the hard days. So what do I have to do on these easy days to get yourself prepared?
I always find it helpful if I know my route, I don't even wear my watch and like don't take it with me. So then I don't know what pace I'm running, or like I don't know what my miles are. So I used to be I run fast all the time kind of person. And then when I did my Chicago marathon build, the girl I was running with on my team, we were just like, okay, we're gonna do our in-between days slower than we think we should. And I think that made a difference on my ability to keep my mileage like as high as it was and to do those really long workouts. But I'm a big, my team's let me tell you, like sometimes I've showed up to workouts sometimes without my watch, which that's not on purpose, but I think it's because I'm a big, if I'm doing an easy day, I can be so like, oh my goodness, like I ran 7:20. I feel like so bad, but my body probably needs that if I had a hard day. So that's what I do.
Say it's a little different for me. I would say like an easy day is like I start pretty slow in the scheme of things, like start off at like 7:20s, 7 lows, and then eventually maybe by like mile 8 out of like a 12-mile run, I feel like we start to get moving, and I'll start averaging a little quicker to my normal pace, which would be like 6:15, 6:20. But I think a lot of it also depends on where you are. Like that wasn't really the case for me 3 years ago. I think as you've gotten stronger, your easy days can become a little bit quicker. Like 2 or 3 years ago, my easy days were probably like 6:35 for 12, and now like an easy day for me could be like 6:18 for 14. And like a heart rate is something I don't really look at during a run at all. I'll look at it like after and be like, okay, fine. That like, it tells me that it was easy, but I don't really focus on it. Like, and usually anything below 145 is something I think is easy, but a lot of times I don't really trust heart rate. And if it says like average like 152, and I was like, I was jogging, I was like, heart rate's stupid. I don't care. It's like, I gotta give and take on when I believe it, I'd say.
Do you guys have any nicknames for your coaches?
No, they don't.
So I only asked that because so I'm coached by Coach Eyestone, and we call him Easy E, is one of his nicknames, Easy E. And part of the reason he's Easy E is because he's so laid back. And a lot of times he just lets us do what we want to do during our workouts. So he'll show up and say, okay, today's 4 by mile. And, let's see what you got. Ready, go. And it's kind of like that. And when he does that, and especially when he does that and Connor Mance is in the workout, we're like, good night. This is going to be fun. But occasionally Coach Eyestone will say, Jared, we're going to do a tempo today. And I want you to run whatever pace, 5 minutes for the first mile. And in the middle of a season, I might have a tendency to be like, come on, coach, like we're getting fit. Like this workout, as you've written it, isn't enough to get me fit. But I can't tell you how many times I have run a workout where coach has given me slow times and I get halfway through the workout and I'm like, oh, coach knew I was tired. I didn't know I was tired, but coach knew I was tired. And I think there's some give and take, right? There's some give and take on the coach's side to occasionally let the athletes figure themselves out and be the artist a little bit, because we can't get inside someone else's body. But sometimes it's so valuable to me to have a coach that says, hey, this is the pace I want you running today. And maybe the coach, like Steph says there's a reason for it. Maybe the coach just knows the reason for it. But I've been so surprised. And I would say to always remember that what we're trying to do when we're training is we're trying to get faster eventually, right? But in the middle of that hard workout, are you getting faster? Like you're literally getting slower. You're breaking down your muscle fibers. You're breaking your body down by creating a stimulus so that you can then recover and build back stronger. But you're not getting faster when you run the best workout of your life. You're getting faster 6 hours later when you're taking a nap, when you're fueling, when you're resting the next day. And so we got to remember that training is all about stimulation and adaptation. And stimulation and adaptation. And when coach starts writing workouts that are giving you a really high stimulus, you have to be really mindful about giving your body enough rest to adapt to it. And I think that's a critical component of training cycling. So if you ever need to know, you can ask coach, right? He kind of knows where you're at in the training cycle, where you're going, where you're, is it okay if I push it a little bit when I feel good? And there might be times where coach says, yeah, when you feel good, go ahead. And there might be times when coach says, I just need you to be slow today because we're fast yesterday, we're going fast tomorrow. So good question though. Easy days easy is an art. And I think to kind of remember that it's an art. And everybody's a little different too. You'll learn your body, and your body might be different from Noah's body. And so, you gather more data on yourself and you start to learn what works and what doesn't work. Really solid question.
What does everyone's nutrition look like? So I guess diet, pre-run, post-run, how many meals are you eating in a day or snacks in between?
Good.
Oh no.
You got a good diet?
Important.
So I'm big beforehand, like morning. I don't really like eating a ton before runs. If I'm like this past couple weeks, I haven't really been eating because I'm not doing a ton of mileage. But if I'm in the thick of marathon mileage, doing 120, 125, I need to eat. I'll usually eat an Eggo waffle with some honey on it and coffee. Big on coffee. And then how many meals? I try to eat 3. I don't know. It's tough. I also work part-time after I run. So a lot of it especially is running, sprinting to work, eating lunch, drinking another coffee so I don't fall asleep at work, running again, and then going home, making dinner, and then it's like, okay, like, what else am I forgetting? Like, I'm probably still hungry. I eat another snack at night, and then I go to sleep and do it all over again. So it's kind of different. I've also like, that's something that I think a lot about running is just learning yourself. Like, I learned that I don't like running on like a full stomach. Like, I don't eat a huge lunch if I'm gonna double. Like, I know some guys can like eat a ton before like their runs. I really can't. I need to be light like a deer or something like that. But I can, right after a run, I can eat whatever I want. I'll fuel up and I'll pound a ton of food, but I probably don't eat enough calories as much as I should, unfortunately.
So you do.
Yeah.
So I feel like when you look at the difference between sort of the very best runners or athletes in the world, and then the next tier athletes in the world, they might not be doing drastically different training. They might not be running different mileage, different workouts, different, different lifts. But one thing that you do see is that there's a lot more intentionality on fueling and timing of that fueling and on rest. So the pros rest better because remember, we're doing this stimulus recovery cycle. So recovery is critical, and part of that recovery is fueling. And so I think like JP saying, hey, get food in right after running is perfect. There's quite a bit of research on fueling right after you run. So as soon as your stomach can handle it, getting some fuel in, let's say even within 30 minutes, and then trying to get a meal in within an hour is pretty important. And so I'd focus on that type of fueling. You're asking what favorite foods are?
I guess, yeah, just like what would be your like normal like
Go-tos.
week or what's your, yeah, I guess.
It is like I'll do something like eggs in the morning after a workout, probably with some other stuff. I think 3 meals a day is kind of tough, especially when you're training beefy workouts in the morning and if you have double days. So I kind of, when I'm training hard, I'm looking at 2 meals a day, kind of call it brunch and then dinner. And so those meals, but if you're cutting down to 2 meals a day, you got to make them a little bigger.
Yeah.
And you got to incorporate some snacking through the day. There's also some pretty good research on protein and glycogen loading and snacking. And so getting kind of a rebump of protein and a rebump of your energy stores, your carbohydrates every 3 hours is pretty good. So.
You guys are crazy with your 2 meals a day. I eat like 6 meals a day. But again, like, I feel like you can follow the same principles, right? I have a lot of food allergies. So what I eat is not going to be relevant to you, but the principles are the same. It's a really good mix of carbohydrate, protein, and fat, which is like the pyramid, the food pyramid everyone tells you. But timing is really big, like we were talking about. And let's say you have a finicky stomach, that's where like preparation is key. So if you have a session, but I'm going to need carbohydrates like to pull from for fuel, wake up a little earlier. And so that might be a bowl of oatmeal, toast with peanut butter. And then there's all these like little combinations that become really key when it comes to like getting carb and protein together. So peanut butter and banana form a really good like chain. Rice and beans, those fill different like protein synthesis and like simple things. And like Jared said, the glycemic index, that's basically the 30 minutes after training where your body is like a sponge. And so I would say if all else fails, if all you had was a donut to grab after a run, that's better than not having anything. So that's pretty key, because the longer your body goes without fueling or like not fueling before runs, sorry, we can change this for you.
Yeah.
But like when you don't fuel or you're fasting, then your body goes into breaking down muscle instead of using glycogen. Yeah, and then just don't complicate it. Eat every couple hours. Eat when you're hungry, but also sometimes, when you're training hard, your body is maybe not hungry. So prepping things like having a smoothie, having liquid calories, having liquid carbohydrates. You'll realize like as your running career goes on, very similar to what Jared said, you can train as hard as everyone else, but it's what you do in the other 20 hours a day that's going to make your running like take off. So if you're looking at what are things to improve, it's not running harder, it's faster. I'm going to be really dialed in with my nutrition. Eating protein and carbs at night before you go to bed, that really helps. So when your body's fasting overnight. Yeah, so for me, it's like breakfast 2 hours before I run, that's coffee and maybe some rice, cereal, and banana. Right after a workout, it would be a protein smoothie. Then within an hour, I'm having a lunch. That might be rice, beans, avocado, like beef tacos, something like that. Knowing that I might have a second run, maybe 30 minutes to an hour. I might have an energy bar and a banana before that. Right when I'm done with that, I'm having another snack. That's getting ready for dinner. And then after dinner, I usually will have some sort of dessert, maybe also an apple and peanut butter, popcorn when I'm watching a movie with my kids, a glass of wine a few nights a week. But yeah, we kind of just make it a full-time job, just around the clock.
Yeah, they answered it all great. I will say I'm not a restrictor. My husband makes a really mean smoked mac and cheese and really great candy yams. So I will not hold back. So I think like it's important to, yeah, be diligent on the things that you're eating, but I also think like not creating unnecessary boundaries that you can't enjoy certain things. So,
I think that can't be understated.
yeah.
Like, I think we do too much of like, we're not supposed to eat brownies or whatever. And so we focus on cutting that out as a way to do nutrition. And I think a much more productive way of doing nutrition is saying, what does my body need and how do I get it?
Mhm.
You're running enough, you'll probably burn off that brownie just fine. But
Yeah.
are you getting the necessary nutrients like Steph's talking about in what you're focusing on fueling with? So, yeah, I love that.
90% purposeful and 10% naughty. Look at a diet, you know?
Sums up Steph.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So I have a question. How do you bounce back from like a week of not ideal workouts or a bad race?
I always just look at it like it's just one opportunity. There's more to come. Like, I think a bad workout, I think sometimes they're good for me to have a bad workout because when I have so many good things going on, like, yeah, what if I show up to a race and it's not ideal or something happens? Like, I kind of know what that uncertainty feels like. Because we can't have everything be always the best. So I think it's those bad days for myself that really like remind me of like, okay, this is just like one thing that doesn't really define me. Like, it's just added into the repertoire of everything that I do. That's what I do.
I try to look at, was that bad day physical or mental? Because sometimes that's important to know the difference. Like physically, you know, like either training was too high going in, or I wasn't rested enough, or I didn't run the race very technically well. Like sometimes it's easy to say, well, you blew up because you did this. Or on the vice versa, was it mental? Like, did you have a mental block? Did you know you were really fit, but your nerves took over in a negative way, and then the race didn't go well? So that helps to define where that went. And then similar to what Amy said, just say whatever I have coming up next is an opportunity to say, okay, how do I fix what went wrong last time?
I think after like a bad workout or race, I think it's very classic to, it's like, oh, I need to bounce back. Like I'm going to hammer this cool down. And then you realize like 10 minutes in, it's like, no, I was tired for a reason. Like I blew up for a reason. Like that was a bad decision. And then you jog it, rest. And then I always like to say like only 24 hours of like sulking. Like you hate yourself for 24 hours. And after that, you have to move on. Because even if you have a bad race or workout, it's still, you still got some work in. You should be able to learn from it. So it's easy to kind of make like the negative a positive, and you can kind of learn from there and see like, what can I change differently to make sure this doesn't happen again? What went wrong? What can I fix? Like maybe I should do this differently, but also knowing that you don't need to change everything drastically because you had one bad day. There's also like other like, am I bad in the wind? Am I hills stink and today, like mentally, like the hills got me. Like that's fine. Like not one bad day doesn't have to change everything either, I'd say.
Yeah, so I had a conversation with Desi once after not making the Olympic team in the trials, and it was about a month after. She gave very similar advice to what you just said. She's like, "Are you still sulking about the trials?" And she's like, "I usually give myself 48 hours. You got to get over it." I was like,
You're like, well, you made 2 Olympic
Like,
teams,
thanks,
okay?
So whatever. That's right. But I think we're too hard on ourselves normally, right? To be a good runner, you've got to be a little bit obsessed with it. You got to be consistent. We got to run every day. We think about this all the time. We set high goals for ourselves. And when we don't achieve goals or we miss marks, we tend to beat ourselves up over it. And I think, and we're all a little bit different, but I'm gonna say in some sense, that umbrella kind of falls over runners. And I think, if you're training every day, if you're doing all the right things, like, then you need to cut yourself some slack. And I worked with a really, really talented sports psychologist that worked through this with me while I was in college. We went out to a race once in Seattle. We were running on Seattle's indoor track. You ever on that track before?
I had it.
Yeah, Dempsey. It's a good track for distance events. It's a little oversized for an indoor track. And we went out there and I was a sophomore and Coach Eyestone felt like I was ready to break 14 minutes. And I felt like I was ready, and I probably was. And I was in the right race and I made some good moves. And with 800 to go, I didn't go. And 4 guys broke 14. And I finished a couple spots later in 14:04. And I was so frustrated. And I went home and started talking with this sports psychologist. And he's like, well, hang on, Jared, rewind a little bit. We started going through, like, at a very high level, what was your best time in the 5K? Because you just ran faster than you just PR'd, right? And we kind of talked to these things, but he said, tell me about the race. And so I started going into details about the race. And I said, well, it was my first 5K like this in a field like this on a small track with 30 people in the race. And I got out really well. And I got inside of lane 1 and about 8th place. And I was positioned really well. And then I was mindful in the race and I covered moves at the right places. And I got out and moved up. And with 800 to go, they made a move and I didn't cover it. And I ran 14:04. And he goes, Jared, it sounds like you did everything right except for one move at the end. You just told me like 10 things you did well and one thing that we can do better next time. And I think he helped me to reframe performances through that lens. And I've tried to condition the habit after a workout, after a race, after I put my kids to bed, whatever the event is, okay? And someday you guys that choose to have kids will learn that putting kids to bed is an event. I evaluate my performance first with 3 things that I've done well before I think of one thing that I can do better next time. And I promise, like, we have, Coach, you're wise to ask this question because we have days where things go so badly that we're like, that was garbage. I remember finishing a race once and I was like, I got to think of 3 things I did well. And I remember thinking, my shoes stayed tied. It's like, does that count as 2? And it's, but that habit, right? Even just doing that conditions of behavior. By the end of this sophomore season where I was working with Craig Manning, I was lining up at the national race. And instead of a season that was made up of maybe 2 races that were really good and like 8 races that were mediocre, I now had a season of 10 races where I had written down 3 things that I had done well in each one of these races. And I was on the line at nationals thinking, man, I'm good at 30 things. And it's confidence inducing. So I think finding ways to shift the performance outcome to these processes that we were able to control and allow these mediocre performances to still be confidence inducing performances is a big deal. So how we handle that is a big deal. And like picking yourself up off the ground, picking your teammates up off the ground. When you see a teammate that has their head down, like, we gotta sympathize with that, right? So if JP and I are racing tomorrow morning and I lose this race and like my head's down, you know, I don't know this can help for JP to come over and be like, hey, dude, you did a lot of things good out there. I just beat you at the line. Maybe names that. But so we, you know, empathizing is important. Like validating those feelings is real. Like, hey, I'm disappointed with the outcome of the race. Yeah, that sucks, man. You really worked hard for this. You know, but being there to help your teammate kind of realize the things they've done well, helping them realize that themselves, you can make a big difference in your team and make a big difference everywhere you are by helping people see the things that they're good at and increasing confidence everywhere you go. Sorry, coach, that was a long answer.
No, I like it.
They all had really good
Yeah.
answers.
What else is on everyone's mind?
I have a question kind of related to that topic, but emotionally, how do you handle either that time when you have an injury or when like you're healed but not at your peak? How do you handle that emotionally or mentally?
Injury stories are like campfire stories.
Yeah.
He's got a good one.
I haven't really been like injured too much. I really, but I've definitely gone through like a slump where it was just like not great racing. Like I DNF'd at the trials because like a hamstring cramp in Orlando. I blame the heat for that and USATF for poor scheduling and a handful of other things.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. And then just like having a couple bad races after that too, and just it's hard to get out of your own head, but you just need to know that like you keep showing up, like it will pay off, which is easier said than done because there is, I think, fewer things in this sport than thinking you're ready to run fast and then showing up, believing in yourself, and then just not being able to do it is tough. But I think just knowing that like it will pay off, you're putting the work in, day out, like it will come to fruition eventually. I'd like to think that like this past like Boston was not really because I had one good block, but it was because I had like 2 years of just grinding workouts and racing that like it finally built up and like it finally showed off, and it was a big relief. So I think a lot of that is just knowing that like bad days are necessary in the sport. Like not every race, not every workout is going to be great, because if you are, then you're going to be an Olympic champion, and odds are that's not very likely. Just knowing that you need to have bad days to have good days is always kind of what I try to think about.
So you guys need to know the good day that he was talking about in Boston, that he followed up this Olympic trials DNF from, was a 2:10 marathon in Boston. That's a mile pace that starts with a 4. 26 miles. So, you know, you pick yourself back up.
Sure.
Pretty cool.
Being an Olympic champion sounded boring. No bad days. Oh my gosh. How do you even grow from that? Yeah, for me, I would say most of my like comebacks were injuries. They were having children. So I have 3 children. Those are, I guess people say long injuries. Yeah, and the biggest thing that I would say, like when you're coming back from something, is staying true to yourself and your timeline. And I think that's really important in a couple ways, not comparing yourself to other people and what they're doing or how quickly they came back from something. And then also one of my favorite mottos now is not comparing yourself to your former self. I think why that is crucial is because whoever you were 6 months ago or the runner you were 2 years ago is not who you are now. And so it behooves you not to look back, but just to look present. And says you can like dream big. So dream with your head, things that you want to achieve, but then execute where your feet are. So let's say big goal is like, I want to make it to the state meet or into NCAs, but right now you're aqua jogging to the pool. So the only thing that you have control of is what can I get out of myself today? And then I think that helps you, long term to say, okay, I have to make all these tiny pieces fit together in order to get to that big goal. And one of the things you see now on social media, I feel like it's this trend where it says, most of the people that have this, or you see the end goal, aren't willing to go through this. Says you see that I have this and that's great, but you're not willing to do all the things and you don't see all the things along the way. So realize a lot of people have that and they're going through it. And yeah, I think those tough times is challenging you to ask yourself, like, how much do I want it and what is your why? And really define that why for you, because that's going to help you get up early in the morning, go cross train, lift weights, whatever it is you have to do to stay healthy and get to that end goal.
I think injury can be really hard. I remember I slipped on ice and then I had a hamstring strain, but we didn't know it was a strain. And I just remember feeling that like frustration, like no doctors could figure it out. I went to PT, I went to chiropractor, and like they were like, oh, you tore your meniscus, or oh, you did this. So I remember feeling that like sense of like frustration of like, okay, I'm 5 weeks in and nobody has told me what's wrong with me and I haven't been able to do anything. So I think like allowing yourself to know like there is a struggle, but then amidst that, like I remember coming back and then my appendix like was about to burst. So then I had to get surgery. So I was like, okay, I just stopped running and I didn't cross train or do anything for 10 weeks. I was like, I just stopped running for 10 weeks. I trained for a few. Now my appendix is out. I was signed up to race in Spain. And I was like, okay, well, now I only have 5 weeks until my half marathon. And the crazy thing is sometimes I feel like I'm humbled greatly when I think that I'm doing something for my own purpose. And I feel like the Lord's like, okay, Amy, like, stop making this about you. And after 5 weeks, I only trained for 5 weeks for Spain, and I ran a 13-second PR. And I think we can't ever underestimate the way injury, that might not be everybody's story, but that was mine. But like, I don't think we can underestimate that like injury can have impact, but it doesn't mean we're out forever. Like most people would be like, you only trained for 5 weeks and you ran that. And I'd be like, yeah, that shouldn't have happened to me. I don't know why it did. But I think, yeah, like knowing that injury can be really hard, especially when you can't get answers the way you want them. But also don't push yourself in injury. And I don't know, I don't like to push myself. I don't like to prolong things. So I was telling Steph the other day, I was like, I'm almost the person where I'm like too cautious. I need somebody to be like, get your act together. So I feel like that's me.
You know, from a coach or a practitioner standpoint, I think like for athletes, we want something to do. We want a workout that we can go crush. And sometimes to stay in the moment and to stay present, whether you're aqua jogging or anything, is what can I do right now? What can I do today that's going to be moving me in the right direction? And my last race of my final college race was I was running on a stress reaction, and my tibia fractured all the way through in the middle of the race, and I was done. And this was the qualifier for nationals, so that was it. And I was on the side of the track and then in a boot, but I was going to try to run professionally. And so we're still having some of these conversations and trying to figure out, hey, what does this look like next? And I remember one day, and I was trying to do everything I could. I remember one day I came home and I realized that there were more raisins on the salad that we were eating at dinner. And I was like, babe, what is up with all the raisins? We're just eating raisins on everything. And she goes, well, I read online that raisins help bones grow back faster. And I still have no idea if that's true. It's probably not. But every time I was eating raisins, I was thinking, I'm helping my bone grow back faster. And it helps. It helps to be able to do something. I'm in a boot. I'm not like, I asked the doctor to spin a waterproof cast so that I could swim on it. And I was still trying to exercise and I was doing these things. But even the little things like, what can I fuel to help this injury?
Mhm.
What can I do for rest or sleep? Or like just having these things that's maybe not a burdensome list, but an actionable, like, athlete checks off their workday list, was really, I think has proven really helpful to keeping, like Steph was saying, keeping the mind where you're at and where, on track for where you want to go. It's a good question though. Injuries not fun.
And then going along with that injuries, do any of you take supplements like vitamin D or collagen or calcium, or like believe in that, or do you just believe it should come like strictly from diet or mostly?
I take supplements. Yeah, I think you can get it from a diet. You have to be pretty vigilant. And so supplements are kind of a nice way for a busy lifestyle to get some of that extra stuff. And you named a lot of good ones. Take collagen and vitamin D and iron and a few things like that, protein. You do also have to be careful with supplements. So in this world, you can have someone knock on your door at 5 a.m. ready to take your blood and drug test you. And it doesn't matter if your supplement didn't say it had an illegal substance in, but was manufactured in a facility that does have substances with banned substances in, and there's it's still our fault, right? So we have to be quite careful, even taking supplements where the label says, hey, this is totally okay. And so we're very careful with our supplements, and we're very careful with where supplements that we consume. I'm generalizing a bit, but I'm speaking for everybody here. But yeah, we're careful, but yes, I think supplements help.
I only really take iron, vitamin D in like the winter, and then melatonin to sleep.
Yeah, I take vitamin D, iron, and then B12 and folate, and those are B vitamins. But I think what's important to know, most of us probably have had blood testing that tells us this is the reason you would probably need these. I can't have dairy, so vitamin D is tough. And then I live at 7,000 feet. So iron absorption is big there, and just needing an extra quantity. And then I was laughing a little bit, Jared, but what he was saying about like when we're in a testing pool, it is important with supplements. I'll be honest, Jared, I have never checked my supplements, and this is why. Because I don't believe that people who have tested positive for things accidentally got it from vitamin D. So I believe that you'll see cases.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah, you'll see cases and you'll read and you might say, oh, I didn't know.
Sure
I
freaked
don't
us
believe,
out, though.
yeah, it does. But I've also talked to USADA and I've never had them be like, yeah, it was from someone's iron. So for the most part, like when people are coming up with positive drug tests, it's rare that it was accidental for many. I mean, I can count on one hand. So I'm a little different where I'm like, listen, I know that what I'm taking is pretty straight up. Yeah. Just a little. Clean sport, go.
Yeah. I usually just take like a multivitamin. I guess I would say like I'm a big dairy person, so really,
Thank you.
my husband's like, can you
I would've
please
taken
stop
those
putting
ones.
cheese on everything we eat? And I'm big dairy, so I don't really take much other than like a multi or vitamin D and whatnot, so.
Oh, yes.
Yes, kind of related to the injury, if you've had like a longer lasting injury, or if you just like had to switch like a lot of cross training, a lot of PT and recovery kind of thing, like how do you get the most out of that? How do you like still build on that and like improve?
So injury and cross training and PT. That kind of,
Yeah.
Can I reference
Yeah.
Kara Goucher? Like early in her career, I remember she was getting injured so much and she finally was like, you know what? I'm just not the athlete that can run 100 miles a week because I'm going to get injured. So she said, I think I can run 75 healthy and I have to supplement with, granted, she had a lot of resources. So she could like aqua jog in a great pool, or she had an Alter G that took body weight off. So I think along the way of like injuries, it's kind of just realizing what is good for me. Not like I have a teammate who can bust out 120 miles a week. I would get hurt if I did that. So realizing like the whole point of running is you want to run as much as you can and push the limits. without getting injured. So you have to have one foot off the cliff, but you also have to be back here. So as soon as you can realize what is that limit for you, don't worry about what your teammates or other people are doing, and say, okay, well, I can maximize this amount of mileage and I might just have to supplement all the time with cross training.
Yeah, it's becoming a lot less, cross training 10 years ago. I mean, Kara was really on the front end of
She was.
this as cross training
Correct.
preemptively.
Correct.
Because cross training for a long time was very injury taboo. It was like, why are you on the bike?
Right.
Do you have a stress reaction? Like,
Yeah,
and,
now
but
Parker.
yeah, it's
they're
like,
cool.
it's just a
nice.
lot more normal, yeah. At BYU, Diljit has her girls in the pool 3 times a week and they all swim. And it's a big piece of it. And so, yeah, I think that you gotta find what works for you in terms of injury, and you gotta find what works for you in terms of like your mind and saneness and sustainability, right? Because some of us that have a hard time sitting on an exercise bike for 2 hours, but there are other ways to cross train if that's not your way. And so I think with everything, it's about gradual implementation. And so if you're deciding that you're going to cross train, then you got to make it a part of your plan with your coaches, and that cross training shouldn't take out of your workouts, right? It kind of goes back to this easy day training as well. Like, how hard should your easy day be? Well, not so hard that it slows down your workout the next day, right? If your easy run is affecting your workout days, it was too hard. If your cross training is affecting your ability to perform at a workout, it's probably too hard. So I think using this sort of gauge can be helpful.
I think you guys answered great.
You guys all do strength training?
Yes.
Strength training?
No strength.
Yes.
No.
No, I really don't. Yeah.
Got a lot of work. for the hands.
Yeah.
The blank
I'm gonna
canvas.
stand up for JP. I was once in a car with Coach Eyestone, and we had recently started this new lifting program at BYU. And it was just me and Coach Eyestone in Seattle driving back to the airport. And I said, so Coach, did you lift much as an athlete? And he goes, yeah. And I was kind of waiting for the rest. And he goes, did pull-ups a couple
Yeah,
times.
I knew I was gonna say that.
So again, like, strength training is supplemental, and I view strength training as something that keeps me healthy to be able to do the volume that I'm doing. And so, again, we're not trying to get into the weight room if it's going to affect our workouts, right? We want it to we want it to keep us healthy, well-rounded, injury-free. I do feel like I benefit from some things in the weight room, squats and lunges. I think some of that power stuff does help me, but primarily it's to maintain health for the running. And some athletes find that the weight room gets in the way. If I go and lift, then I can't run the hard workout tomorrow. And if that's the case, then we need to adjust one thing, and the one thing needs to be the lifting, right? And so I think it's supplemental, and I think important to maybe keep that in perspective.
I'm gonna disagree with
Okay.
Jared, which is okay. I think, to me, females especially, I think it's crucial for like long-term bone health, ligaments, tendons, all that. And we were always of the mindset as like, even if it is affecting your workout for the long term, it's still building that strength. And for distance runners, I think what it does, is it builds the power and speed that sometimes is hard to get in certain workouts, like things that you would have to do to get the pop from doing, a back squat or a front goblet squat or RDLs. You might get injured if you're like, you need to sprint for 60 meters. And for me personally, I think what I saw it do in my career was it helped me sprint at the end of races. And that was really huge, because I think one of the questions high school kids, college kids will ask, like, how do I get faster? How do I like sprint in the last lap? But for us, it doesn't matter if you want to win a race, if you're not at the bell lap with the leaders, it doesn't matter how fast you can sprint. So the first part of distance running is getting to the last lap in the position where then you need to sprint. And I think that's all the training that we do. And then for me, the gym work was, well, now that I'm with the leaders, like how am I tapping into like sprinting at the end of a distance race? So not saying he was wrong, but like we
I think
thought.
we're maybe
like,
closer.
we are
Preface
yeah,
that, but
yeah, like it was like crucial to us,
Yeah.
but there's true, you did have some workouts where like, I feel like crap because I lifted, but then we just looked at it like part of the big picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy lifting. I've lifted ever since I was in high school. My sophomore year, I started to like see a strength coach, and I think that made a difference. Also, too, I think why I've never, maybe it's just also like my body type, but I've never had, besides like random mishaps. Like I said, I strained my hamstring on ice. I've never had like bone injuries or really like anything that's been super major. And I think I can attest it to, I had strength that would complement what I was able to do when it came to running. And I think it's just finding what works for you. Like on our team, like JP and I's team, we don't have like strength plans from our coaches. So like we can just do kind of like whatever works for us. So like I go to the gym twice a week, and then I have a teammate who she likes to go to the gym every single day. So like that's her thing, but like that, and then I have my thing, but we also train the same. So it's just kind of like whatever really I think has worked out for us.
Cool.
In general, in a training year, I'm wondering like, what mesocycle periodization scheme do you follow to apply progressive overload? I was kind of
What?
talking to Karen about this earlier.
He should be coaching.
It's no like 3-week build. Yeah, if you have like a block of 4 weeks of training, is that 3 weeks going up and then 1 week back down? Or is it 1 week up, 1 week down, 1 week up, 1 week down? Or is it kind of a build gradually and then you kind of hold it maybe with the occasional down week? Like, how do you structure that? Or how do your coaches structure that?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, for us at least, it kind of depends on what we're like training for. Like for a marathon, like start low, and I mean, training block is usually like 10 to 12 weeks, depending on which marathon it is and how far out you're starting. But so like for Boston, I was coming off Houston half marathon. We took 3 days off after Houston half, just because there's not like a lot of time. Usually we take like a week or two before we start a marathon off. You start building up. I got up to 125, and that took probably 8 to 10 weeks, or I don't know, like 7 to 8 weeks to build up to that, but it was like steady progression. Like, and I've done that mileage before. And then you kind of go back down to race week. It's like you hit 125, then it's like 115, 110, like 85, and then race. Like right now, I'm not training for a marathon. I'm doing like just some summer racing, and it'll kind of be like, it won't be really necessarily like we need to like do this. It's like, it's going to be kind of based off like how we're training each week, is like how many workouts we're doing this week. Cause we're not on like a 7-day cycle. We do like kind of like a 9 to 10 day cycle. So like I've been building up. I hit 105 last week. This week will probably be like 95 maybe. I don't even know. I'm racing against next week. So that'll be probably like 90. And then after that, I'll probably hop back up. So it's kind of like being able to handle like the ebbs of like climbing, staying steady, but also like if you have to flip kind of like back and forth, kind of like how a cross country schedule is, where you're racing every 2 weeks, is like you need, I think it's good to be building up for the summer and finding that spot, staying flat, don't burn yourself out, and being able, you're gonna have to kind of come lower and then ride a little bit, like 1 week's gonna be up, 1 week's gonna be kind of down, you're kind of going back and forth, and then eventually you'll kind of level out until regionals, and then you crush Madison, Wisconsin there, or something like that.
For us, post-collegiate running looks a little different than it would be for collegiate season. So we kind of break into segments. We'll sit down with each athlete. We talk about, you know, whether they're running a marathon, that you generally like, even a bigger scheme, like our younger developing runners and anybody that's still improving, we tend to do something, a lot of them are marathoners. So we'll have kind of 3 marathons for us every 2 years max. And the reason a lot of marathoners will go fall, spring, fall, spring, fall, spring, but our group does it a little differently because we believe that forces us to work on something else, well, faster, like shorter. It could be a road race season, it could be a cross country season, it could be a track season. But all of those are factored into it. So with us, after every marathon, we generally take 2 weeks off, completely off. So athletes will cross train, bike ride, whatever they might want to do. Sometimes it's longer than 2 weeks if the athlete had some sort of a thing that was bothering them during the segment. It could be as long as 3 or 4 weeks, because we want to make sure they start the next segment healthy. But again, our timelines are different than your guys. You guys have a national meet or conference meet at a very specific time, so you have to be ready for these. We have a little bit more flexibility, and we kind of set that up. It's obviously Olympic years, you have your Olympic trials and hopefully Olympic games. But it is all segmented, and like JP said, if we're in a marathon segment, it's kind of coming off of a couple of weeks for us, building up to a mileage with the workout schedule, and then a 9-day cycle more or less. So every 3rd day we're doing something with quality, and we consider the long run something with quality as well, because we allow them to have flexibility on their long run. Like if they're a lot of times in marathon setting, we get after the long runs, get a little aggressive, but we also look at it as a workout day. It's not a long run and then a 1 day and then a workout. We have 2 days after each long run. So again, looks a little bit different, but it is important in my mind as a coach to segment your season and to have ours were never done with up and down weeks. We generally will do it with just a build up to a peak, hold that peak for a certain amount of time, and then taper down. And obviously what JP didn't touch is also the workouts look differently depending on where you're at in the segment. The start of the segment, they might be a little slower, and sometimes you start getting a little bit faster speed toward the end of the segment, depending on what you're getting ready for. But so it'll vary a little bit with each athlete depending on what their segments are and all that. But it's sort of the same. And again, there are different ways to do that. Some teams like nothing wrong with going, doing alternating weeks with volume and cutting back in volume. And there's plenty of ways to do that, but that's the way we've done it within our group.
So in your careers, you've all been a part of teams, high school, the college, and even at the pro level. How important has that been to be a part of a team in your development?
I was say I love being a part of a team.
Mine was huge. I mean, from college, very important, but then I would say as a pro, I was a part of this group for 10 years, NAZ Elite in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I truly believe it is one of the only places as a young adult that I will ever be as challenged physically and mentally as I was versus any other workplace. And I got to come every day and be like, this is my job and this is what I get to do. And the bonds and relationships that I form with those people will last a lifetime. And I would say probably my most memorable was getting ready for the Olympic trials in 2020. That was in Atlanta. And what I just remembered about that training cycle was myself, my teammate Alfine and Kellen. I mean, we were just going at it in such a good way where we all had the same goal. We all wanted to make the Olympic team, which meant that many of us were not going to, and we were going to be up against each other. But we never looked at it that we were competing in training. We looked at it that we were bringing the best out of each other, day in and day out. And something happened to me after the Olympic trials. Spoiler, my teammate Alfine, she ended up winning. I took 6th, and then my teammate Kellen took 8th. And someone said to me, when in the race did you know Alfine was going to win? And I said, I knew 10 days before the race when we did our last workout. And Kellen and I absolutely crushed our 16-miler marathon pace. And I was like, we can make this Olympic team. And the fact that Alfine was so far ahead of us and basically blew us into the ground, I was like, that's when I knew that she was going to make the team. And one thing that I realized at that moment was someone else's success does not mean your failure, because Alfine made the Olympic team that day and I missed it, but it felt like I won as well because I was so part of that journey, and me and Kellen were able to experience that with her. And that's when I realized like making the Olympic team was a huge goal of mine, and I never achieved it, but it was more of who I became, you know, along the way, trying to get there.
Love that. Yeah, I think sometimes we underestimate my experience has been that wherever we are in life, it's easy to look backwards and see the impacts that we could have had on those around us than it is to look around us exactly where we are now and recognize the impacts that are available to us right now. And when I look back on teams that I've been on, one regret that I've had is not realizing the impact that I maybe could have had in addition to maybe impacts that I had on my teammates and on the people around me. And so I miss those team environments, and I have a little bit of one now, but so I would say, you know, just take advantage of it. You know, it's, you know, things can get bigger and faster, but they might not necessarily get better. It's pretty special to be on a team and to sort of have that camaraderie. And I'm still friends with some of my high school teammates and some of my college teammates, and those bonds last. And so, I guess just kind of maybe a reminder to all of us to just have the impacts in the circles that we're in, and where you're on a team now with teammates and with new teammates coming in at the start of a new season. You can have a big impact on these people's lives. So just to be aware and maybe have those impacts. Cool thing.
There's nothing more bonding in my eyes than running day in, day out with the same group of guys, like going through the ebbs and flows of running. And they're like, oh, this sucks, we're exhausted. especially in college, where, I mean, if you guys have like PM practice, like you guys just dealt with class, now you have to run, you're exhausted. Like there's nothing more bonding with that, and you're just joking and you're making like memories for life and dumb inside jokes that you'll remember 20 years from now is like one of the coolest things, I think. And I'm very grateful that I'm in an older version of it now. I mean, nothing's really changed. Like we have 5 or 6 guys right now, and age ranges from like 23 to 30, and we're all still making very stupid jokes. Just nothing ever makes sense being said. Amy can attest to when we there. It's very not much more mature than the college guys, but it's honestly one of the greatest things, I think, and I'm very thankful for it.
I really like what Steph said of talking of like viewing your teammates as people that are assets and like people that lift you up. Our coach in college always said, like, I don't care who crosses the line first, but you're women that are going to make each other better. And I specifically remember a race. I think I was a senior, and Alicia, you guys know Alicia Munson? She was my college teammate, so she was a junior. And I had a really hard time that year. I had a friend that passed away in a car accident, and it was like Alicia had gone through it with me basically, and we were at Big Ten championships at the University of Michigan, and I had placed 4th in the 3K the night before, and my coach pulled Alicia aside, and I didn't know that she did this, but she was like, I want you to help Amy like cross the line top 3 with you the next day. And she was like, I want to help Amy win. And so you guys can look it up. It's Alicia Munson's the greatest teammate on YouTube. And for almost 400 meters, Alicia yelled at me. She was like coaching me while we were running. And she was like, come on, Amy, go, come on, Amy. And you see me like, like trying so hard. And we crossed the line, she cried because she didn't let me win. And like, I'm sure that will not ever happen at the Olympic trials or anything, but like, how sweet is that to have a teammate? Like, we had such a close relationship. She was better than me, but she loved me so selflessly. And she, like, I think because of the way we were never competitive and we were each other's champions in college, like we got to have such a great experience with one another. So yeah, if you look up Alicia Munson, the greatest teammate.
So we're up on time. Any last words of advice, encouragement for the crowd that's in here?
Who's running tomorrow? Woo, exciting. Yeah. I would say, live in the moment tomorrow. Run the mile you're in. However you gotta code that to just be present. You get to have fun when you're present. So.
I always remember doing a summer race, like in the middle of a college summer and just thinking like, oh, I'm so fit. And then just realizing like 2 miles, I'm like, oh my God. Usually it's always a lot warmer. Like tomorrow won't be too bad. Like it'll be pretty cool. So that'll probably help. But I always remember thinking like in a midsummer race, I was like, oh, I should probably like stop drinking so much beer and probably keep drinking. I don't know. So hopefully you guys are in a better spot than that.
I think when you're, tomorrow, I don't know how competitive it will be for you guys, but when it comes to like all these races that are gonna be important, think about like the start list and what people next to you have done, and think about what you've done in your past, and just think of ripping that paper up and then say today, like, why not me? Why not today? So don't think about things you've done or haven't done, or think about how much faster someone else has run that's on the start line with you. Just tell yourself, why not you? Why not today?
Hard to follow up stuff after every question that you answer.
I'm
So
older.
ditto.
I'm a lot older. That's
Yeah. I'm kind of just like, I'm gonna have fun this season. So never underestimate, just have fun.
Well, thank you all. We really appreciate you guys taking the time.